43,000 stars in under a year, and this tool doesn't just scan your code for bugs, it exploits them live before it ever tells you they're real. Strix is an open source AI pen testing agent. Point it at your app, and it spins up autonomous agents that run the application. Click through it, send real requests, try to break it. Most scanners flag things that look wrong and leave you to check each one. Strix works the opposite way. It won't report a vulnerability until it has exploited it and built a working proof of concept. There's a free CLI and a paid hosted platform with auto-fix pull requests. It talks to pretty much any model provider you'd want. OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, Bedrock, Azure, OpenRotor, or a fully local model. It hunts the stuff that actually matters. Broken access control, injection attacks, server-side request forgery, stored and reflected XSS, business logic flaws like race conditions and checkout flows, and JWT and session bugs. Wire it into CI with the non-interactive flag, and it exits clean on a pass, or exits with code 2 the moment it finds something real. Before any of this, only run Strix against apps you own or have explicit written permission to test. The README says it in a warning box, the docs repeat it in the quick start. This agent gets shell access, writes live exploit code, and fires real HTTP attacks. Pointing that at a site that isn't yours is a legal problem under computer crime law, not just an ethical one. That's not a formality. It's the difference between a bug bounty and a criminal complaint. Under the hood, it's what Strix calls a graph of agents, specialized agents for recon, exploitation, and post-exploitation that share what they find instead of working in isolation. Recon maps the attack surface, fingerprints the stack, and also does OSINT and subdomain enumeration before it ever touches the app. Exploitation drives a real browser through Playwright, intercepts HTTP traffic, and writes Python exploits in a sandbox. Post-exploitation chains findings together, so one broken access control check can become a full account takeover it can actually demonstrate. It also runs static and dynamic analysis together, and checks infrastructure and cloud configs, not just application code. Everything lands in a knowledge base with CVSS scores and OWASP categories attached. Two things you need first: Docker running, since the first scan pulls a sandbox image, and an API key from a supported model provider. Install with the install script or pipx, then set your model and key as environment variables. That config saves to a local file after the first run, so it's one-time setup. Anthropic's Claude Sonnet 4.6 and Google's Gemini 3 Pro both work too. Same 2 lines, different provider string. You can steer a scan with an instructions file. Tell it what to focus on, hand it test credentials, mark routes off limits. That instruction file also doubles as your rules of engagement, so nothing in it is optional once the run starts. For a big repo, use the mount flag instead of the default copy, since Strix caps local copies at 1024 MB. And on a pull request, scope mode diff tells it to test only what changed instead of the whole app. Pair scope mode diff with diff base to point it at the exact branch you're merging into. Spin up OWASP's Juice Shop locally, a deliberately vulnerable app built for exactly this. Point Strix at it in quick mode with a hard budget cap, so a demo can't quietly burn through your API key. By the way, I post one of these daily. Subscribe if this is your thing. StrixView opens a local dashboard, severity breakdown, a live agent graph, every finding with its proof of concept. The dashboard binds to your own machine on a random port with a tokened link, so nothing about your findings gets uploaded anywhere. You can also point it straight at a GitHub repo instead of a running app, and it'll read the source before it fires a single request. None of this is free once you look at the API bill. A quick scan runs $3 to $5 in tokens. A deep scan is more like $10 to $20, and deep is the default scan mode too, so if you don't set a flag, you're already paying deep scan prices. One documented run hit 5.7 M input tokens, about $17 at Claude Sonnet pricing, and tripped an automatic spend suspension on the API key. Bigger apps with hundreds of endpoints can run into hundreds of dollars per scan. That budget cap flag exists because of community bug reports asking for exactly this kind of spend limit. Treat max budget USD as a hard ceiling across the root agent and every child agent it spawns, not a soft suggestion. Swap in a free local model and the bill drops to zero, but you're trading that for weaker results. Not everyone's sold. On the launch thread, developers called parts of the project heavily vibe-coded and questioned Strix's own comparison to XBOW, another AI pen testing tool, arguing XBOW's capability goes well beyond what a large prompt file can replicate. One even compared its demo exploit unfavorably to DARPA-grade AI security research. They also pointed out the showcased vulnerability, a missing JWT check, was something ordinary AI code review would already catch. There's also the standing skepticism that any AI agent demo has a human quietly steering behind the scenes. Fair pushback, worth remembering, before you treat any single finding as gospel. You can run this against a fully local model with Ollama or LM Studio instead of paying per token. Point Strix, LLM at Ollama, or an OpenAI-compatible local server like LM Studio, and it just works. No cloud key needed. The catch: Strix's own docs admit most local models, especially under 70B parameters, struggle with the multi-step planning this needs. They recommend Claude Sonnet 4.6 or GPT 5.4 for anything that counts as a real assessment. Local buys you privacy and zero API cost. Cloud buys you findings you can actually trust. The project isn't new. It launched in August 2025. It shipped version 1.3.1 with GitHub Action support earlier this year, which made it trivial to wire into CI. Then the real spike, #1 on GitHub trending on July 3rd, gaining 2,137 stars that single day. It's kept climbing since, past 43,111 stars now, still shipping commits daily. Multiple independent trackers, not just GitHub itself, confirm the same growth curve this month. That kind of growth usually fades in a week. This one didn't. Even at launch, sharp developers were already picking the project apart on Hacker News, which is worth keeping in mind before you take any of this at face value. Here's the honest take. Strix is a strong lead generator, not a replacement for a licensed pen tester. It won't file a report full of guesses, since everything ships with a working exploit, and that alone puts it ahead of most static scanners you've probably used. That's real signal, not just noise with a fancy dashboard around it. And it's actually usable by a solo developer, not just a security team with a budget. But it's not hands-off. One reviewer ran it black box against their own site and got 0 confirmed vulnerabilities, because the agent burned its request budget guessing at roots, over 1,300 requests to paths that didn't exist, and only 30 hits on real ones. Pointed at code you can see instead of a bare URL. Cap the budget, read every finding yourself, and treat this as a fast first pass, not a signed audit. Strix won't replace a real pen test, but for catching the obvious stuff before it ships, it's hard to beat free. Grab a target you actually own, cap your budget, and see what it finds. I'm covering one new AI tool like this every day. See you in the next one.